And it's Ken Kreitzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio, our weekly Army football huddle. And we're going to talk a little bit about Army's game on Saturday at Ball State. And then Army's on bye this week, but they will be traveling out to play University of Wisconsin out in Madison in a week from Saturday. Now, joining the Huddle tonight, we have from SALRadio, from our Monday WVOX show, Jack McGurk. Jack, how are you?
Doing very well, Ken. How are you?
Very good. And calling in from Florida, another member of our SALRadio team, and that is Richard Miller, our producer director. How are you tonight, Richard?
I'm doing very well, Ken. Ready for some football conversation.
Very good, very good. And calling in from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama, from West Point class of '87, we have Colonel Sam Houston. Colonel, how are you tonight?
Saturday was perhaps the worst college football Saturday that I've had to endure in a long time. We'll talk about that some more. Okay. And you may hear some rumbles of thunder coming through here because we've got some severe thunderstorms rolling through Huntsville right now with a severe thunderstorm warning. So if you see some flashes in my face and hear some rumbles in the background, it's not field artillery or tank cannons going off. It's actually Mother Nature.
Okay, well, we hope the weather isn't too bad. We've all experienced enough bad weather this year. And calling in from Southern New Jersey, we have from the West Point class of '92, former Army football player Steve Shalhoub. Steve, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, Ken.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Ball State games, some of the other top 25 games, and the activity of the Naval Academy and Air Force this past weekend. And just looking at the Army game, this is one where Ball State went out to return the opening kickoff for a touchdown. And then the first time they had the ball, they threw I think it was a 45-yard pass for a touchdown. And then did a drive for a touchdown. They're up 21-0. Then Army came back in the second quarter with two length of the field drives and seemed to take back the momentum. But in the third quarter, Army just could not maintain any offensive momentum. And Ball State scored. The Army had played Tyre Tyler, and then he got hurt in the third quarter, and Jamel Jones went in. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And Army had a chance to score late, and but got stopped on downs on the 2-yard line. Who would like to start first? Sam, you want to start with your analysis of the game?
Sure, and I'm positive that there'll be several talking points as we progress here. Bottom line, the team came out flat as a mackerel, and the announcers of the game repeatedly, they were actually pro-Army announcers, I'm going to say. Normally when we have an Army football game and it's not on CBS Sports Network, the announcers are they acknowledge Army, but they're actually sounding more like they're in favor of the other team. These announcers actually were pro-Army the whole way. And they seemed absolutely as flabbergasted as the rest of us at how much Ball State was out hustling, out hitting in every aspect of the game. And this was true from the start, but there's many facets to that. My biggest takeaway from the game is it confirmed a fear that I had going into the game. And that is, we talked all about Army's quarterback depth prior to the season, how it was the deepest quarterback rotation they had had in forever. But I'm just going to give you pretty much the exact same analysis that I texted to Steve while the game was going on. And it's like this. Army doesn't have quarterback depth. Army has a quarterback depth of one, Christian Anderson, and he was out. The rest of Army's quarterback depth is suspect to non-existent. And the game was a exclamation point of this fact. Something that I pointed out last week, that every single time this season Christian Anderson goes off the field, there is a significant drop-off in the production of the offense. And yes, triple option football is about execution and assignments at the team level. But execution and assignments aside, it is totally dependent on a quarterback who can execute the reads required to conduct the triple option. And quite frankly, I don't have anything against it. I'm not criticizing Tyler for his grit and his determination or his athletic ability. But I'm going to tell you straight up, and you can look back to last season, his quarterback play, his pure quarterback play under center for the triple option is poor to atrocious. And that's it.
Well, Sam, let's just play devil's advocate with you. Army ran 2 drives in the second quarter, the length of the field. Tyre scored on both of those drives to finish that off, and had his moments. I'm just going to check again what his yards were. He ran for 63 yards on 24 carries, so not great. That's a lot of punishment to run 24 times. Jamel Jones, when he went in, just had 7 yards and 6 carries. So there's certainly a drop off there. But it also seemed like Ball State made major adjustments on defense in the third quarter. Steve Blue, let's go to Steve and get his analysis.
All right, go ahead.
How do I put this? Tyre is going to get killed if he continues to play like that and he continue to call the plays the way that they're calling. He doesn't have the ability to knife through the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have the ability to evade the defenders. He gets hit too many times square, and it's getting to the point where I don't think he'll last a full game the rest of the season unless they figure something out with that. It's not fun to watch. Now, on the other side of it, if you ask me 5 games into the season whether or not I would be feeling pretty good being 4-1, I would have told you yes. If you ask me questions about the legacy of beating a MAC team on the road, I would say that that's rocky for us. We've always had problems with that. Laying an egg like we did on Saturday is bound to happen. Not that I like it, but I'm not burning the ships at this point in time. But we are going to have to figure out. We've got 2 opponents coming up that are significant foes that are more athletic than what we faced on Saturday. And if we continue to run that same offense with the same quarterback and expect a different result, we are sadly mistaken. I mean, he literally could be non-commissionable at some point in time. The hits that he's taking, the squareness of these hits, they're jarring. They got to do something about that. And then again, we started throwing the ball a lot on first downs, and we weren't getting the completions we needed. We got behind schedule again, especially after we started establishing the fullback. So listen, I'm not sending up, SOSs at this point in time yet. I mean, we're going to see the true mettle of a team starting next week. But I think, just as I was pretty not surprised by us losing that game in the way that we did, I've seen it before. It's the same script. But I've also seen us rise up against the Oklahomas and the Michigans, and that we've got a week to prepare for Wisconsin. So I'm not saying that we're not going to come out and give them the game of their lives. So let's just stay positive, and I think we'll be okay.
There, Ken.
Let me unmute myself. Jack,
Oh, there
Clark,
you go.
how are you? What was your thought on the game?
Yeah, this was a rough one for Army, and to hear Tyler getting hit like that. In the score there, when Ball State's up 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, that kind of tells you something's not right. Although, Tyler had a couple of those rushing touchdowns in the second quarter. Fourth quarter, the Army, the second half, the Army offense, not much going on there. The defense did pretty well, had that safety late in the game. But, you wonder how they're going to fare against Wisconsin and if Christian Anderson's going to be back.
Yeah,
that's a key thing. Richard, what was your thought watching the game? I don't know if you got a chance to watch.
Watching the game, Army they did not make enough plays. This is a team that needs, I think, Christian Anderson, they need to work well on more offense, probably running, being more aggressive.
Okay.
This is a team that I would say their opponents were actually ready to play. They weren't just, it's going to come in and be an easy game. No. They were ready. They showed up and they showed on me that they were ready.
Yeah, I think Richard makes a good point. I think Ball State really came to play on Saturday.
Yeah, Ball State came to play.
They did the kickoff. They did the first pass for a touchdown. They were ready to turn their season around after 3 losses. And
Ken, you remember in the pregame discussion we had, you asked me how I thought the game was going to go. The game unfolded exactly the way I said I expected it to. I said Ball State is going to come out and they're going to punch Army in the face. They're trying to save their season. They know that Tyler's under the center. They've seen him play. They've seen the game film. They're going to try to make him make mistakes and seize upon those mistakes to gain an early lead and try to run it up as much as they can before Army regroups. That's exactly what they did. I think Tyler accounted for more yards tackle for loss in that game than Army had the whole season prior to that. And again, there's some reasons for this. And please, for anyone watching this, I am not knocking Tyler as an athlete or for his grit, his determination, his commitment to the team. He is a great player. He's a great athlete. Quarterback, he's not. And in my opinion, he should not be under center. First, his size. He's a very diminutive player. He may be fast, but you got to be able to see over the line of scrimmage as a triple option quarterback. He can't even see past the line of scrimmage because of his size, and it makes it impossible for him to make consistent reads on every play, which is why his reads are often him panicking at the point of attack and keeping the ball. And then what you have is you have the smallest player on the entire field carrying the ball the preponderance of the times when you've got a backfield of 260-pound fullbacks and talented slot backs like Tyrell Robinson, who should be getting the ball. There's something wrong with that when your offense becomes that one-dimensional. Now, another thing is I've seen a lot of people this week criticizing Brent Davis. All right. Some of that may be well-founded. However, when you're talking about triple option football, and you watch the Ball State game, I guarantee you Brent Davis was up in that coaching booth ready. If he had any hair left on his head, which he doesn't, he would have ripped it out. Because I guarantee you on at least one half of the plays that we saw, that was not the play that he called. Why do I say that? Because either A, it was not executed properly, B, the read was improper, and it led to either tackle for loss or no gain. So, yes, Brent Davis did make some calls that didn't make any sense. Some of the passing plays on first down, which caused us to get behind schedule, especially when you have your worst passer among the quarterback depth that you could have on the field, because that's another thing. When Tyler drops back to pass because of his size, he can't see past the line of scrimmage, so he is practically incapable of catching his receivers open downfield. Okay. And that results in pass plays that are way off the mark, or you're trying to throw it out of bounds and you throw an interception instead. So how do we correct this? I'm going to make the recommendation I've made the whole time. Tyler should be playing slot back. And that way the responsibility for making the reads is no longer his. I get it. He's a give me the damn ball kind of player. And I like that. But give him the ball when someone else has made a read for him, and then he can use his athletic ability to run in open space.
Okay. Well, let's deal with the issue that I asked Coach Monken the question in the Monday conference call about Jabari Laws. Was he considered to be put into the game? And he could be the quarterback going out to play Wisconsin if you're not comfortable with Tyre, who may not be 100%, and you're not comfortable with Jamel Jones. You may be looking at Jabari Laws, who really has only played one full series in 2 years since that great, effort against Air Force. Then after that, you've got Cade Barnard, who hasn't really played this year. And Cade Ballard, I'm sorry.
All right.
Now I'm thinking of the fullback. So what do you now? And you Steve, what do we think the quarterback situation was? Because Coach Monken said that of the two players that were out injured that everyone was asking about, Conor Bishop and Christian Anderson, Coach Monken said that Conor Bishop is more likely to be ready to play ahead of Christian Anderson, which means Anderson's got some kind of a more serious injury than we might have thought.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson's we're looking at based upon the injury that he has. I mean, that's a 4 to 5 week recovery period. I don't expect him back until Air Force. I'm not a doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So, so we've got to go to the dance with a date that we have. And so where we are is, is it Christian Anderson? Jabari's, I don't think he's fully recovered and ready to come back in for prime time, because they wouldn't have gone to and his name skips my mind. Yeah. So I think we're looking at, will Tyre be healthy enough to go on Saturday, and they'll ride him until he gets dinged, and then we'll go to someone else, and maybe we're up enough to get there. So we're in a kind of a tough situation. We really are. And this, unfortunately, it's probably the recipe we're going to have until Air Force.
Yeah, I guess, I asked Coach Monken, in fact, I've asked him a couple of times if he thinks Jabari Laws is ready to play substantial time. And he says he is. He says he's not 100% of what he was 2 years ago, but he's ready to play. So we may, we'll see. I mean, it's see how the practice goes this week, but we'll see if Tyler hopefully is healthy and can get back in. So we'll see. The other thing
on Jabari Laws, my assessment is Jabari Laws is a decoy right now. His knee injuries were a lot worse than what we've ever been led to understand or believe. And Monken gave you just enough to go on, and that is he's not back at the level he was 2 years ago. And that's why he's not going to be on the field. He's not as fast as he was. And I don't think that his ability to run the offense as efficiently as he was 2 years ago, like say, for instance, at the UTSA game a couple of years ago, he doesn't have that speed anymore. And I would dare say that the coaches don't have the confidence in his knee to carry the load. However, it's easy to talk about him as though he's about ready, so another team can be concerned that they got to open up the film archives and go back and look at him play in games previous to be ready for him. But I don't think you're going to see him leave the sideline other than carrying a clipboard.
Okay, and that's could be. I mean, he had they tell me he had 2 ACL injuries. One, I guess it was in the game in November 2 years ago, and then one during his recovery period. And he's had to really fight and work extraordinarily hard to get back to be. He's been in the 2 games so far, one for a last play and one for a series. at the end of another game. Now, the thing that stands out to me looking at the rushing totals is the fullbacks really had a bad day, only 40 yards total, with Jacoby Buchanan getting 38 yards on 10 carries, and Tyson Riley just 2 yards on 1 carry. Cade Barnard got one yard, and Anthony Atkins had 23 yards on 5 carries. It seemed like Ball State really tried to block the middle, and they had a couple of big defensive tackles, 295-pound players to try and block that fullback run. What did you guys say?
Well, let me jump in on that one first. You mentioned the second quarter. There were 2 touchdowns scored in the second quarter. You go back and look at those drives. Those drives were the drives where the B-back, the fullback, got the lion's share of the carries that you just mentioned. And so that's why those drives were effective, because they stuck to the B-back. They used the B-back in short yardage situations. They used the B-back on first down. And some of the reads were most correct during that time period to put the ball into the playmakers' hands where they needed to go for the drive to stay alive and for the play to be effective. So the fact that the B-backs had a bad day, I do not think was so much because of Ball State's defenders. It was because of the fact that B-backs didn't get the ball. And when we live on an offense where establishing the B-back dive is the bread and butter of the engine that makes the triple option for Army work, when you stop using the B-back dive and start depending on a 175-pound quarterback to run inside the tackles play after play and get dinged up, then you're practically putting training wheels on a racing bike and expecting to get the same performance out of it. It ain't going to happen. So, yeah, sure, Ball State came to play, but if you go back and look at the game film and you look at the second quarter, you watch the production of the B-backs. We had Ball State on their rear ends during the second quarter, and there was no reason to think that we couldn't keep them on their rear end in the third quarter, except for the fact that we went away from the B-back as fast as we did in the third quarter. And next thing you know, we were 3 and outs.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. I have the quarterbacks running 30 times in the game. The fullbacks or V-backs won 17 times, and the slot backs won 14. Because earlier in the year, we were all saying, well, you got to get the ball to the slot backs more than 12 times, and I got it to them 14. And with modest success, Tyrell Robinson, six attempts for 22 yards. A.J. Howard went for 16 yards, 3 runs. Brandon Walters, 15 yards on one play. And Brahim Murphy went 27 yards for 4. So, you know, it just certainly wasn't what we were expected with the fullbacks being able to dominate. Steve, what was your thought about the mix of the running plays that Army ran Saturday?
Yeah, what I saw off of that, and Kevin, I know we talked about 12 times, and I sent the over/under at 12, but those were pitches; those weren't just the slot back. So there's a difference between getting it to the slot backs, whether it be a toss sweep or a pitch, because the pitch is an extension of the triple option, which opens up the 3 phases of this. And Tyre is just not a triple. I mean, the one or two triple option plays he tried, he got the ball knocked away on not eliminating the pitch man. So, and that linebacker 40 had the game of a lifetime too. So I will give kudos to Ball State on that. The running game, when we're that 1 or 2 dimensional, and listen, I was frustrated last year a lot when Tyre would pick the snap up and he's tucking before he even looks at the fullback. So we know where that's going. And it's not very difficult for the defense to know that either. So we're kind of in I think we're in a little bit of this is what we're going to get. We hope for 4, maybe we'll get 3, and 2 is probable in that particular situation. So when you become that one-dimensional, it becomes easier. I mean, that was a senior team, guys. I mean, 21 returning starters. They won the conference last year. They're a heck of a ball. Maybe they just early part of the season weren't playing up to their potential and then played up to the potential in this one. I mean, that's a heck of a talented, experienced ball club that had a chip on their shoulder. So we're going to need to establish the run again, fullback first, be back. The numbers, I like my chances of 4 world-class 265-pounders taking a beating versus a guy that's, under 180. So let's get the ball in their hands. And there are other plays we can run with a fullback. There are other plays that we can run with traps and other things inside to slow the pursuit and gather the angle that we just don't get into the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
And that will save that'll save the quarterback a little bit instead of being knocked out after the third quarter or second quarter, as have seen regularly. So maybe we start moving to more of an inside trap, inside counter, almost a Delaware Wing T type offense, but we can run it out of a multiple set.
Okay, what is a Delaware Wing T?
Well,
It goes back a ways.
I mean, if you look at it, it is having 2 running backs in the backfield, 1 fullback and 1 off to the side with a slot back. So it's just basically taking one of our slot backs off of the wing and bringing it in the backfield, and you can run multiple counter sets out of that. And they call it a wing T because you do it to the tight end side, where you have a slot back behind the tight end, and now you're overloaded on that side. You can play all kinds of games. And sometimes going back in time is the way to get people off of their heels. I watched the Miami Dolphins beat the Patriots with a single wing one year, or what they call the Wildcats, a single wing. And they got that from back in the day, black and white, where people clap very fast on replays. So something like that, where we've got. For the first time, Army's got bigger running backs than they've had in the past. We were all running around at 5'8" and 5'7", and they've got some 5'10", 5'11" guys, or they've got some decent size. Let's cross block. Let's do some trapping. Let's save the quarterback a little bit, and then get the ball outside after the fullback, is established, and we get some of that stuff. So I think there are ways that we can save the treads on the tires of our quarterback. But if we continue down this road, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And if I can chime in on that, I agree completely with Steve. But the X factor here is that with Tyler, until the kid learns how to make the reads and hand the ball off, it doesn't matter what play is called. He's still going to keep the ball the preponderance of the times, and we're going to end up still with the smallest guy on the field carrying the ball the majority of the time, when we've got a backfield of 260-pounders just waiting to tote the rock, man, just waiting. And there was one play early on in the game that I think is the moment I realized we're in trouble. When Army went for it on 4th down early in the game inside their own territory. They went to an unbalanced line to the strong side. They ran the play and got the first down. However, there was a timeout called by Monken. I don't know why, but he called a timeout. So it negated the first down. They went back to the field, did the exact same strong side, unbalanced line formation, and ran the ball to the weak side and got stuffed for no gain. That told me right then, we're in trouble. This is going to be a long day.
Okay. Let's take a little break, and let's give Richard Miller a chance to go through the top 25 games last weekend. There were some big games. What do you got for us, Richard?
What I've got for week 5 is Georgia defeated Arkansas 37-0. The Georgia Bulldogs improved to 5-0 on the season, while Arkansas is 4-1. Number 4.
Okay, Richard, we're going to stop on that one. We got to talk about that one. Hear from Sam, and Sam has disappeared. Steve, any thoughts about Georgia's 37-0 over Arkansas?
Yeah, I mean, I think Arkansas was up and coming, and I think that was sometimes you just,
Oh, man.
it's a level set game, and that level set that they still got a long way to go. But if Arkansas is that talented as we all thought they were, then maybe Georgia challenges this year against Alabama. So it can go one way or the other. Either Georgia's gotten a lot better, or Arkansas is not as good as we thought. But I'd like to think that Georgia got that much better, and they're going to challenge Alabama this year.
Very
Yes.
good. Richard, go ahead. Why don't you do a few more scores? We'll
Okay.
take a little more time on this tonight.
Michigan 38-17 over Wisconsin. Michigan's 5-0. Wisconsin's 1-3. Michigan's ranked number 14 in the country. Wake Forest improved
Okay,
to
let's
5-0.
stop on that one for a second, Richard. That's the opponent in 2 weeks. What did you guys see, if anything, in Wisconsin's loss to Michigan?
I don't think we saw enough of what can we expect out of Wisconsin in 2 weeks. Wisconsin's starting quarterback got hurt. Looked like he got dinged in the ribs, but I don't think that it was a season-ending injury or anything like that. The only thing that I saw coming out of the game is that Wisconsin got whooped, and Wisconsin's going to be mad when Army rolls into Madison. So Wisconsin's not going to be thinking about the Michigan game when Army comes to town. So Army better come to play.
Yeah, they got a date with Illinois this week. Richard, keep going.
Okay, let's see. What was I? Wake Forest 34, Louisville 37. Wake Forest is 5-0. Louisville is 3-2. Notre Dame loses their first game 24-13 to number 7 Cincinnati. Notre Dame is ranked number 9 in the country. Cincinnati is 4-0. Notre Dame is 4-1. Coastal Carolina, ranked number 16, puts a number on UL Monroe, which is 2-2 on the season, 59-6. Coastal Carolina improves to 5-0 on the season. The Alabama Crimson Tide, who are ranked number 1 in the country, improved to 5-0 with a 42-21 victory over number 12 Ole Miss. Ole Miss is now 3-1 on the season, while Alabama is 5-0. Number 11 Ohio State is 4-1 on the season, defeating Rutgers 52-13. Ohio State is ranked number 11 in the country. Number 6 Oklahoma improves to 5-0 with a 37-31 victory over Kansas State. Kansas State goes to 3-2 on the season. Overtime in Stanford against number 3 Oregon. Stanford's 3-2 on the season. Oregon falls on their first loss of the season at 4-1.
What was the
Number
score on
10
that one
Florida
again,
loses-
Richard?
What?
What was the score? Stanford versus Oregon
31-24 Stanford in overtime.
in overtime. Well, hey, let's just break and talk about that. Let's see, Jack McGurk, did you watch any of the games?
I kept an eye on the Navy and Air Force games, but
Okay, we'll get back to them in just a second. What did you guys think of Cincinnati going into Notre Dame at South Bend and winning? That's a big statement win for their
boy.
program. Keeps them alive for the college football playoff.
I thought it was great. And when we had the pregame discussion on Saturday, I made mention of the fact that, people think of Cincinnati for their offensive prowess. And they don't take into account that Luke Fickell, he was a all Big Ten nose tackle for Ohio State. The guy's a defensive minded coach. And they came in and they throttled down Notre Dame pretty hard there in South Bend. So touchdown Jesus was not signaling too many touchdowns for the Irish on that day. And I was not surprised by the outcome. Cincinnati came within a field goal last season of being undefeated.
Okay. Steve, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think when the season started off with Florida State and Notre Dame, that they played each other so tightly, and I think it's playing out that it was two okay teams playing themselves hard, because we saw what Florida State did after that fact. So I don't see that. I see Notre Dame, and if you watch, Kelly come out after the game and talk about, it was an execution type thing. I think he knows what he has in the cupboard there. This is an off year for Notre Dame.
Okay, and Wake Forest, another strong effort, beating a good Louisville team. And they're going to be at Mikey Stadium in just about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, I saw a email come from the Army Athletic Association today. Looks like they only have limited tickets left for that game, so I'm very pleased to see that. It means that hey, we might actually see a Mikey Stadium sellout for Wake Forest. That would be great.
I hope so.
Now let's just hope that Army can sort out their QB challenges if Anderson can't play, because of all the teams right now on Army's schedule that I feel the most concerned about personally, it's Wake Forest. They're having a season for the ages. They've got the talent and team to pull it off. And quite frankly, they just might be competing for the ACC championship at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's interesting how the ACC is not dominated really by Clemson and Florida State and Miami this year. Okay, let's go to Jack McGurk. Let's give Jack a chance to tell us about how Navy and Air Force did last week, and always we'll get Sam Houston to another high level of energy.
All righty, well, I'll start with Navy. And Navy had their first win of the season, 34-30 win over UCF. They had 406 yards total offense, 348 rushing. Senior slapback Carlinos Assi led the team with 85 yards rushing. Isaac Ross rushed for 84 yards, including a 4-yard touchdown late in the fourth quarter. I'll get to that one. Quarterback Ty Labatai, who actually returned from missing a couple of games with an injury, rushed for 57 yards, had 2 touchdowns in the game, 7-yard run in the first quarter and a 1-yard carry with 9:45 left in the game. On defense, Diego Fago, he's a stud, led the team with 11 tackles. Tyler Fletcher had 8, Marcus Moore 7. And with 1:34 left in the first half, senior slapback Daniel Taylor actually recovered a block punt in the end zone for a Navy touchdown. Late in the game, with Navy trailing 30-27, Diego Fago knocked the ball out of Brandon Johnson's hands after a 20-yard reception, and Taylor Robinson recovered it at the Navy 47. And 11 plays over 5 minutes later, Isaac Ross ran in that 4-yard touchdown run late in the game, giving the midshipmen a lead with 3:09 left in the game. UCF quickly went down the field, got the ball back, but Navy, Taylor Robinson came up with an interception in the end zone, sealing the win for Navy. They're now 1-3, but their next one, this is going to be a tough one. They're taking on nationally ranked number 24 SMU, who's undefeated. So that's going to be a tough game for the midshipmen.
Where's that one? Is that in Dallas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one for them. SMU has really elevated their program in the last couple of years. So that will be an interesting one. Okay, Richard, you got a few more scores for us? Then we'll
let's see. Yes, I do have a few more scores. Let's see, where did I leave off? Oh yeah, Oklahoma 37, Kansas State 31. Oklahoma is now 5-0 on the season. Number 23, NC State 34-27 on Louisiana Tech. NC State is 4-1. Louisiana Tech is 2-3 on the season. Kentucky 20-13 over number 10 Florida. Florida's second loss of the season. Kentucky improves to 5-0 on the season. Number 19 Baylor 24-14 loss to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, number 19 in the country, is 5-0. Baylor is number 21 in the country. Mississippi State and Texas A&M, both teams are now 3-2 on the season. Mississippi State 26-22 over Texas A&M. Texas A&M is number 15 in the country. Number 25 Clemson, 19-13 victory over Boston College. That was Boston College's first loss of the season, going to 4-1, while Clemson goes to 3-2. Number 4, Penn State, 24-0 over Indiana. Penn State is number 4 in the country. They are 5-0, while Indiana falls a game under 500 at 3-2. Number 17, Michigan State is now 5-0 on the season, while defeating Western Kentucky 48-31. Western Kentucky is 1-3. Auburn 24, LSU 19. Auburn, number 22 in the country, is now 4-1 on the season, while LSU was 3-2 on the season. Arizona State, a 42-23 victory over number 20 UCLA. UCLA is 3-2 on the season. Arizona State improves to 4-1 on the season. Hawaii and Fresno State. Hawaii, 27-24 victory over Fresno State. Hawaii is now 3-3, while number 18 Fresno State is 4-2. Maryland has lost to number 5 Iowa. Iowa is now 5-0 with a 51-14 victory over Maryland. For the Maryland Terps, it was their first loss. They go to 4-1. Number 13 BYU improves to 5-0 with a 34-20 victory over Utah State. Utah State is now 3-2 on the season.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Now, what stands out to me in that group of games is Kentucky, 20-13 over Florida. Kentucky is making a statement that it's wants to compete in the Southeast Conference. Anyone see that game? Have a thought on the potential Kentucky has to be a factor?
Well, I will just chime in and say, obviously, I was wrong during our pregame. I said Florida would win the game. I was wrong. Way to go, Kentucky, because, hey, I'd much rather see Kentucky win than Florida. However, enjoy it while it lasts, Kentucky. You're in the Southeastern Conference. You have Georgia, and you have, more importantly, you have Alabama in your midst. So, enjoy it while it lasts, because eventually you're going to feel the stinging pain of facing one of those two teams, and it's going to burst your bubble.
Okay, now we got to give you and Steve a chance to talk about the 406 yards of offense that Navy generated against Central Florida, a team that's been top 25 not long ago. How many yards of that was rushing, Jack? You said of the 406, it was mostly rushing.
Yeah, it was 348 rushing.
348 on the ground. That's pretty strong against a team that's going to the Big 12 next in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Sam,
Yeah.
and Steve, any thought on Navy?
I'll let Steve go first.
Yeah, what I find interesting, number one, I was behind Navy beating Houston, right? Because Coach N is you're not gonna keep him down very long. And as much as we don't want to agree, and we can agree on this, right? I respect the heck out of the Navy program. I do. I think we all have a mutual hatred of Air Force. So we have that portion of it. And I think the Navy players and the Army players are they're similar, right? And they're going to rise up. So I'm not surprised by their win. And I think they'll surprise some other teams this year, because Coach will have them ready to play. He's had too much experience. He's too much buy-in. There's been a little bit of drama this year, but they'll right the ship, quote unquote, and it'll probably be, righted right about the time that they got to play us, and we'll play to a 1-point victory. But, so I'm not overly surprised by it. But what I am surprised about, and I haven't had a chance to process this, because I think we'll look back on the season, it'll play itself out, is how many teams are now emerging, and unexpectedly so. We've had conversations in the past about, what name, image, and likeness is going to have, and what kind of effect is that going to have on a program. Now you got Clemson that's out of the top 25 first time since who knows when. And we got teams like Coastal Carolina. We've got, teams that are poking back in, like Kentucky with some relevance. Wake Forest, where they actually go to class. They're in the picture on stuff. It's exciting. So how much is transfer portal? How much is continuity? How is this shaking out? And it's going to be interesting to see what we talked about. Everybody take a step back and stop worrying about, it's going to oscillate. And it's exciting actually right now to watch some of these teams. I watched a Kentucky game on replay last night. It was on ESPNU. It's exciting because Kentucky used to be the doormat and they beat Florida. It's fun.
That's a huge win for Kentucky, that they've got football competitive and in the SEC.
And that's why Tennessee didn't want to play Army, because and it's true, because this stuff is starting to rear up, and you can't, as an athletic director and a head coach, can't have on your resume that you lost to Army in Neyland. So this is all really, really fun. And when I'm hearing Richard go through his scores, it shows you when a Stanford's beating Oregon, and Oregon was going to play for the national championship, right? And now they're getting beat by Stanford. Again, another school that goes to class. It's fun. So I'm off my soapbox.
Okay, Sam, did you have
Yeah.
anything to add?
Interesting stat about the Florida-Kentucky game is that Florida had won the last 16 straight games at Kentucky. It was the longest away winning streak in SEC football history. And that streak was broken. Now, we're not talking about 16 straight games. We're talking about 16 straight games at Kentucky. So you can add on the games that were played in the Swamp, which I can only imagine Florida also won. So that was a big deal. And glad to see Kentucky having some resurgence. Now, as for the Navy game, during the pregame, I had it on and we were kind of watching it live because I was giving you updates. It was still in the first half. So we wrapped up the pregame about the time that Navy blocked the punt and scored a touchdown. And here's the thing from my observation of that game. Navy was not the better team on the field, but they were the hungriest team on the field. They wanted it more. And they were the scrappiest team on the field. They created situations where UCF made mistakes. And one of them was the Fagot tackle on the long pass game late in the fourth quarter or early in the fourth quarter with UCF in the lead and driving. It was a big play. It looked like UCF was going to go down the field and score again and take a 2-score lead. But Fagot, man, as much as I hate that guy, boy, he is a warrior on the field. I'm so glad it's his first year. But he forced a fumble. Navy recovered. Momentum, Big Mo, is still on Navy's side at this point. They drove right down the field with confidence because UCF started getting desperate and their defense started getting tired. And now the triple option was working. And with Labatai, hey, here's a hint. Navy dropped that 5'7" quarterback R line in favor of a bigger quarterback to run their triple option football, and it worked. So the next mistake that Navy, I'm not going to say they forced this, but they put their defenders in position on the play that it created the mistake by UCF. And that is, with less than a minute to go in the game, UCF completed a screen pass that went all the way down to about the 2-yard line. But there was a block in the back on the play by one of the offensive linemen out on the perimeter. And the reason was because the hyper aggressiveness of the defenders putting themselves in position where the only angle that the offensive lineman had on the player was in the back. And guess what? He made the mistake and hit the guy in the back, brought the play back. And as a result, UCF was left with a long yardage situation. They were trying to get into the end zone that ended up resulting in them not scoring and Navy holding on for the win. So kudos to Navy. They won when they needed to win. They were the hungriest team on the field, and they proved it. I still don't think they were the best team on the field, but by golly, on that given Saturday, they outplayed UCF, especially in the second half.
Okay, now, Jack, why don't you tell us about the Air Force game?
All righty. Well, first I need to go correct myself for a second. The Navy SMU game is actually at the Naval Academy. So just clarifying that. Yeah. But Air Force, they improved to 4-1 with a 38-10 win over New Mexico. Falcons had 441 yards total offense, 408 rushing. Brad Roberts led the team with 142 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Hughes rushed for 89 yards, including a 53-yard touchdown run in the third quarter. Zeke Daniels had the first score of the game for the Falcons with a 1-yard carry in the first quarter. On defense, junior linebacker Vince Sanford led the Falcons with 6 tackles and 3.5 sacks. Senior safety Corbin Taylor added 6 tackles and a fumble recovery. Senior defensive back James Jones IV had his first interception of the season. In the second quarter, sophomore safety Dane Kinnaman recovered a fumble and ran it back 3 yards for a touchdown. New Mexico was held to just 226 yards total offense, 179 passing, just 47 yards rushing. Air Force is now 4-1 and 1-1 in the Mountain West Conference, and they will host another conference opponent, Wyoming, on Saturday. And their triple option is running on all cylinders. Brad Roberts, another 100-yard plus game. So this is kind of scary coming up for Army in a few weeks.
How many yards rushing did they have, Jack?
408.
They had 408 yards rushing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's, that's a lot. I don't, that is, as you said, Air Force running the option on all cylinders. Sam, what would you like to say about the Air Force Academy this week?
First thing I'm going to say is last week I brought up Coach Calhoun and something I'd read about him pressing for red shirt for all of his plebes, his freshmen. And I went back and I did my research. I could not find a more recent article on this. I could have sworn the one I saw was recent, but the only one I could find was from about 4 or 5 years ago. So there was some half truth to what I was talking about last week, but I'm going to retract my comments from last week about him pressing the leadership for red shirts for his freshmen. However, he did at one time, he was pressing the Air Force leadership to redshirt all of his freshmen. Now,
Sam, let me ask you, how would that work? Because many of the academy athletes go to a prep school. That works for all three of the service academies. So if you've gone to a prep school and then you'd redshirt, that's like 2 extra years.
Yeah, but prep school is not redshirting. Prep school is like, high school plus. So you're not losing any NCAA eligibility by playing each season at the prep school, regardless of where the prep school is located. So, but you'd have to ask Air Force about that red shirt. How did that turnbacks work? It worked for Air Force and they got away with it. So I'm sure that whatever Air Force would pull shenanigans wise with regards to their football players, they'd get rid of it. Oh, before I go on to the game, I will say, hey, Air Force, what's up with these players on the sideline with beards and mustaches on your team? And don't try to deny it. I saw it. It was on full display on the football field, on the sideline. You got players with beards and mustaches on your team. What is going on with that? I mean, come on. Did they forget about grooming standards? What's going on with that? Anyway, on to the game. And you can go back and watch the replay of the game if you don't believe me. But anyway, Air Force, all kidding aside, Air Force is the best academy football team at this precise moment in time this season. Air Force is peaking right now. Air Force is hitting, like Jack said, they're hitting on all cylinders. Zeke Daniels is the best triple option quarterback in academy football right now. And, some people in the audience may not like hearing this Army guy saying that. I'm just calling it like I see it. Air Force is hitting on all cylinders. They're playing defense well. They're playing offense well. They're running the full gamut of triple option offense. They have a quarterback who understands how to run the triple option. They've got backs that understand their assignments. They've got a line that blocks well. They've got a defense that's playing really well. I think that because of the Utah State embarrassment game, they're still playing with a chip on their shoulder. They play Wyoming this coming Saturday. I believe Wyoming is still undefeated. It's at the Air Force Academy. Don't be surprised to see Wyoming walk away with a loss because Air Force is running a close second to Wake Forest with me with regards to the teams I am most concerned about Army playing this season. And, as much as it pains me to say that, again, I just got to speak from the heart about what my observation is. Air Force has a good team. They're playing really well. The only team that can beat Air Force right now at this moment in time is Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a chip on their shoulder from last year's game at Mikey Stadium. I have to believe. Steve Shalou, anything about the Air Force?
I don't disagree with what Sam's saying at all. I think they are really poised to be tough. The one thing about it, Army always finds a way recently to rise up. I mean, they're on paper, they shouldn't have beat Air Force last year. It shouldn't have even been close. Just the number of people out with COVID and the downward opportunity after the victory of Navy that was epic. All the cards played in the wrong direction, and we found a way to do it. So I am always concerned about Air Force, but I think their program is definitely in a good spot right now. So I like it. I like the ability for us to be the underdog and go into there and play hard in a neutral site. And I think we'll be really healthier and it'll be a fair fight.
Okay. Now, Jack, thank you. And Richard, what are some of the top 25 games coming up this weekend?
Some of the top 25 games coming up this weekend. Number 15, Coastal Carolina will be taking their 5-0 record against Arkansas, who is 1-4. That's a 7:30 game tomorrow night. Temple will be taking on number 5 Cincinnati. Number 5 Cincinnati is 4-0 on the season. Temple is 3-2. 10:30 the same night. Stanford 3-2 and Arizona State 4-1 on the season. That will be a 10:30 game on Friday. Saturday, number 13 Arkansas takes on number 17 Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 3-1 on the season, while Arkansas is 4-1 on the season. Number 7 Maryland, number 7 Ohio State takes on Maryland. Both teams are 4-1 on the season. That will be a 12 noon kickoff. Also, as well, number 11 Michigan State takes their 5-0 record to Rutgers to take on the Scarlet Knights. The Scarlet Knights are 3-2 on the season. Oklahoma number 6 is taking on Texas number 21. Oklahoma's 5-0. Texas is 4-1 on the season. Red River rivalry that Saturday.
Yeah, that's always a big one.
Yeah. Vanderbilt is taking on number 20 Florida. Florida is 3-2 on the season, while Vanderbilt is 2-3 on the season. Also, you got BYU is at home with a 5-0 record number 10 in the country, taking on Boise State, which is 2-3 on the season. Navy 1-3 on the season will be looking for their first win against SMU. SMU ranked number 24 is 5-0 on the season. The number 2 Georgia Bulldogs, which are 5-0 on the season, will be traveling down to Auburn to face the number 18 Auburn Tigers. Auburn is 4-1 on the season. Number 19 Wake Forest is 5-0 on the season. They will be taking on Syracuse. That's a 3:30 game.
Who's playing Syracuse, Richard?
What?
Who's playing Syracuse?
Wake Forest. Number 19 Wake Forest is 5-0 on the season.
Is that at Syracuse?
Yes, that is at Syracuse.
Okay, so 2 trips for Wake Forest to New York State this year. Interesting.
Penn State is 5-0, taking on number 3 Iowa. Iowa is 5-0 as well. Penn State is ranked number 4 in the country. 7:30, number 16 Kentucky 5-0, taking on LSU. LSU is 3-2 on the season. 7:30, number 9 Michigan 5-0, taking on Nebraska, which is at 500 with a 3-3 record. 7:30, number 14 Notre Dame 4-1 on the season, will be trying to get back in the win column. Virginia Tech will be playing them. They're 3-1 on the season. 8 o'clock CBS Alabama 5-0, taking on Texas A&M, which is 3-2 on the season. 9 o'clock New Mexico 2-3 will be taking on number 25 San Diego State, which is 4-0 on the season. That's a 9 o'clock game.
Hey, good job, Richard. Who did you say Coastal Carolina was playing?
Oh, Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
Let's see, Coastal Carolina. They are playing Arkansas State. That's a 7:30 game.
Arkansas State. Okay, I heard you say Arkansas, but I didn't hear the state. Okay, there you go. What? Let's see. What do you got? Why don't you each pick one game and make a prediction on it? Jack, do you have one that you're going to watch? Want to make a prediction on?
A couple of games. I'm going to keep an eye on that Wisconsin-Illinois game to see how they're doing. Wisconsin's kind of struggling a little bit, but I think they might come back and pick up a win over Illinois. Also, I've been keeping an eye on my dad's alma mater, Holy Cross, up in Worcester, Massachusetts. They're actually 3-2 on the season. They have a game coming up on Saturday at home against Georgetown, a pair of Jesuit schools facing each other right there. Holy Cross is doing pretty well. I think they're going to come up with a nice win over Georgetown in that one.
Okay. That sounds like a good one. Richard, which games are you going to follow?
I'm going to be following the Oklahoma-Texas game, the 12 noon game on ABC. Oklahoma, I think, is going to come out on top with a victory in this one to remain undefeated, but it will not be easy. I think probably an overtime, not an overtime game, but a very close game. I think at least by a touchdown, Oklahoma will be winning. Oklahoma, I'm going to go 28. No, wait, 28-24, Oklahoma comes out on top in a close game.
Okay, what's nice about that is they played at the old Cotton Bowl Stadium. They upgraded the stadium to 80,000 seats. Sam and I were there when Army played in the Heart of Dallas Bowl, I think it was called. They're against, what was that team, North Texas?
North Texas.
Yeah, and Army pulled out a win at the end. Sam, what games are you going to watch this weekend?
Well, of course, I predict Army's going to win this weekend. They're going to win the bye week because they need it. They need the time off to regroup and recover and bring some players back onto the field. So it's a good time to have a bye week for the brave old Army team. You already heard my call on the Air Force Wyoming game. As much as it really does stick in my crawl to pick Air Force, I got to say, the way they're playing right now, I believe Wyoming will experience their first defeat. So I'll be following both the Service Academy games, the Navy SMU game and the Air Force Wyoming game. And then I'm gonna go back to Kentucky, good old Bluegrass State, and I'm gonna pick Kentucky to beat LSU this Saturday, and make it 2 in a row for the Kentucky Wildcats over traditional SEC powerhouses.
Okay, Steve Shalou, any games stand out for you that you're gonna focus on this weekend?
Yeah, I like Penn State, Iowa. I like watching that game. Iowa, are they a pretender or contender? They always flex, but then they fade. I want to see if they can stay. I want to see how good Penn State really is. I mean, I saw the Indiana game. I'm not quite sure that's a good gauge, but this game on Saturday at 4 p.m. will be interesting. I'm a huge fan of San Diego State for some reason. After watching them play in a bowl game, it was probably one of the best bowl games I've ever seen. They broke the top 25. They've got New Mexico. I want to see how they do. And I'm predicting an upset of Virginia Tech over Notre Dame this week.
Okay. Very good. Well, San Diego State's interesting. They're building a new stadium out in the area and making the investment. I've been wondering if they're pushing to try to join the Pac-12.
If I'm not mistaken, San Diego State plays Air Force in 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, I think it's an interesting game, Navy and SMU. See if Navy can have a strong performance 2 weeks in a row against a top opponent. I feel bad for Vanderbilt going into Florida. Vanderbilt has really struggled this year, and Florida is going to be playing on all cylinders after their loss this past week. And Penn State, Iowa should be a good one. 2 top 10 teams. Kentucky, see if they can pull off a win against Louisiana State University. Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. Notre Dame all of a sudden needs to come back after a loss. So a bunch of interesting ones, and we'll follow Holy Cross and Georgetown. Where's that game, Jack? Is it in Worcester?
Yep, in Worcester.
Okay. Very good. Well, any final thoughts from the huddle tonight before we break? We got a bye week, and then we'll be talking, getting revved up for Army playing the Wisconsin Badgers in front of 90,000 people out in Madison a week from Saturday.
I guess my final thought is let's just go back to talking about Army's quarterback. My last thought is in the bye week during the practices and preparation that's going to be taking place this week and next week, that Army is willing to dive deep into their quarterback well and really give a fair shot at some other players to represent if Anderson is not ready to go. And something I texted to Steve earlier today was, hey, why not Cade Ballard? Why not? What do we got to lose? So, but, we'll see. I just do not have confidence in Army beating Wisconsin if Tyler is the starter, and I'm going to stick with that.
Okay. Steve, anything?
I just want everybody who watches the show and everything, just keep it all in perspective, right? It wasn't too long ago, 4-1 would be a godsend. And right now we are, there's dissension in the ranks, not with these five or six young gentlemen here, which are good people. But as you start reading about, coaches' heads and, the players, and let's just pump the brakes a little bit. And the players on the Army team are great individuals. They're working hard. They're performing a lot better than they have in decades. And don't let us being spoiled with their success get away from the fact that they are doing great things out there. And they're cadets first. They're going to be officers. They're doing, all the right stuff. And their lives over the last 2 years are unlike any college football player, any college student, and they've sacrificed so much. So let's give them a little bit of a break here and let them show us what we can do the rest of the way through.
Steve, you remind me of a nice photo that was out on Twitter of a bunch of the Army football players taking a physics exam on Friday night at the hotel once they got out to Indiana. And that's not unusual. Jack, any final thought?
Well, I think the Army-Wisconsin game is going to be a fun game. If you look back on some of the bigger opponents that Army's faced, the Oklahoma game and the Michigan game, Army always steps up in these games, and I think they're going to step up big against Wisconsin. But this weekend is going to be very interesting for Navy and Air Force. Both have home games against undefeated teams, and Navy, that's going to be a tough one against nationally ranked SMU. They're a really good team this year. Wyoming, on the other hand, the Air Force hosting them, that could be a good one. Air Force could come out on top in that one. And also, I want to confirm what Sam was saying before, that Air Force does have a game against San Diego State. That's going to be on October 23rd. That's actually 2 weeks before the Army game.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank everyone. My last word is to thank the 2 million veterans of the American Legion and the 330,000 members of the Sons of the American Legion who we represent, who serve America's veterans all across the country. And so again, thank everybody. Jack McGurk from Pelham, thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Miller, also from our Sons of the American Legion radio team down in Florida. Thank you for joining us, Richard.
You're welcome, Ken. Thank you.
And from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama, Colonel Sam Houston, class of '87. Colonel, thank you.
To Steve Shalhoub's closing comments. Dilly.
Okay. And Steve Shalhoub from South Jersey, class of '92, former Army football player. Thank you for joining us tonight and your contributions. And again, this is Ken Kreitzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio. We're based in White Plains, New York. We'll see you again next week as we will dig in to analyze Army and the Wisconsin Badgers. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.